Because this is the one where we ruffle some feathers, okay? And sometimes people don't like what we're saying, but I'm from Canada, and if you don't like it, I'm going home anyway, so nobody cares, okay? So it is what it is. We're gonna get into it, and then this is not an empty offer, okay? Fight me, okay? I'm in. Let's do it. Let's go back and forth. Let's do it, okay? Fight me, okay? All right. So today we're going to talk about expectations and boundaries. My trip here is like kind of truncated, so we're trying to put together a lot. If we finish today, great. If we don't, like, no problem. There's a lot to cover. But we talk about like what you should be expecting. What you should be expecting. I walk around a lot, and I'm supposed to walk only this way, not this way. Got it. Thank you for reminding me. We talk about what you can expect in a relationship. So, rough idea of what the trajectory is supposed to look like. And then we talk about boundaries. Okay? And then we talk about expectations of each other. Okay? So, girls, what you should be expecting from guys, and guys, what you should be expecting from girls. Okay? And this is kind of like we talked about yesterday for anybody who was there. We are rising to the calling. Okay? We are rising to the, thank you so much. We are rising to the design, okay, that we were called to be. You're not going to nail it the first few times, but that's the goal that we're working towards, okay? Before we get started, we always start every relationship goals talk with level setting, okay? We are going to assume that anybody who's interested in these talks is here for an adult relationship, okay? We're not playing around. We're not joking around. We're going to assume that everybody's in the right time, right place in their lives, right circumstances, all that stuff, and that everybody understands what marriage is supposed to be, okay? Marriage is not a rom-com. Marriage is not there for somebody to make you feel better about yourself. Nobody cares how you feel, okay? Marriage is a path to salvation. When you are dating, you are looking for somebody who will be yoked to you in your path to salvation. A partner on the path to salvation, okay? So we talked about it a lot yesterday, so I'm not going to go over it too much, but we just kind of level set that that's what we're talking about here, okay? All right. So where do we start? We talked about this a little bit yesterday as well, so I'm not going to get too much into it, but we talk about how the Bible doesn't have clear guidelines on what a good boyfriend or what a good girlfriend is supposed to look like, but it has very clear guidelines on the kind of person that you're supposed to be. Okay? And when you are working on being that kind of person that you're supposed to be, then who you are in a relationship will flow from there. So before you start pointing fingers at, men are not menning and women are not womening, okay? Okay? You point the finger this way first. And you make sure that you're ready. Okay? You make sure that you are on the path to salvation in terms of your spiritual life. You make sure that you have realistic expectations. And you make sure that you are yoked and knitted to God, okay, who is going to guide you where you need to go before we start about anything. Okay? Now that we've level set, okay, let's talk about the logistics. Okay? So this one, I gave a talk at a church at home where the head servant looks exactly like this guy, but with glasses, okay? And we roasted him. And he was very offended that this is like what he looked like, but I promise, this is what he looks like. With the glasses, we roasted him. Okay. Sorry, how many people were here yesterday? Okay, so remember we glossed over the algorithm, okay? Today we're gonna dig. We're gonna dig into the algorithm. Can you guys see that, or is it too, far away? You can see it. Can you guys in the back see it? No? Sorry, I can't help you. I don't know why I asked. I can't do anything about it. Okay. So, a long time ago, we've been doing relationship goals for 8 to 9 years or so. Somebody, a few people in a few churches asked us to come up with an algorithm. Okay? What's it supposed to look like? What's reasonable? What's creepy? If I see a girl at a meeting from a distance, but I didn't talk to her, is it creepy that I just go and ask her out and we've never had a conversation? Yeah, it's a little creepy, okay? So we decided we're going to put together an algorithm. We're going to break down these algorithms step by step, okay? And we're going to flesh out some of the pieces in them, okay? All right, so let's start. So this one is for guys, okay? We have 2 algorithms for girls because girls are infinitely more complicated than boys. So we get 2 and you folks get 1, okay? So infinitely more complicated, which is a nice way of me saying smarter, just throwing it out there, okay? Nice way of saying smarter. I was trying to be politically correct and you dragged it out of me, okay? All right, so guys, have you had a conversation with her? Okay? If the answer is no, do it. That's it. That's the whole advice. Just do it. Okay? There should be no reason why you don't. I get it. Okay? Nobody wants to be vulnerable. Everybody's a little bit afraid of rejection. You guys live in this technological world where it's just so much easier to like slide into somebody's DMs than to go and have an in-person conversation with them. We're going to talk about technology. Okay? For now, at the inception of this conversation, in whatever form you can, have you had a conversation with her? Because if the answer is no, it is creepy that you go and ask her out. It is, okay? Because what are you asking her out based on? Nothing. Appearance. You're a weirdo, okay? Don't be a weirdo. Go and have a conversation with her because you want to make sure that there is something that clicks. You want to make sure that there is something there. That if you do go out on a date with this person, you're not going to be 5 minutes in and want to stick a fork in your eye, okay? So go and have a conversation with her. And if when we ask, why not? Maybe I can zoom in. Can I zoom in? Can you guys see that? Is that better for the folks in the back? Yes? Okay, so I can do something about it, okay? If the answer is no, again, you got to ask yourself, are you rising to the calling? Do you understand the design of a godly husband and a godly man? Do you understand what he has called you to be? Do you understand David in the Bible? Do you understand like the potential that he sees in you that he wants you to appreciate? Do you understand that? If something like a conversation is something that you can't do, and I'm going to tell you when it comes to dating, there's going to be a lot of things that are not intuitive and a lot of things that are hard, but you can do hard things, okay? My strength is made perfect in weakness. You can do hard things, but you have to appreciate the expectation of what you're being called to do, okay? So let's just kind of take a pause, talk about the design, okay? Sorry. Let's talk about the design, okay? So we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but we'll just go over it quickly, okay? The design is that relationships model Christ and the church. That's the design, okay? So guys, you be what Christ was, okay? You model what Christ was. So what was Christ, okay? Christ was sacrificial. He loved wholeheartedly and sacrificially. Everything about his life was in sacrifice for those he loved. Everything. Forget like the crowning moment, okay, in terms of his crucifixion. Everything he did, okay? He did nothing for himself. Everything was sacrificial, okay? Christ was bold. Christ did not shy away from difficult conversations. Christ did not shy away from conversations that made him vulnerable, okay? Christ did not shy away from the potential for rejection. Arguably, he was rejected more than anybody. So when you stand there and you want to talk to somebody and you can't do it, okay, because you're paralyzed by this fear of rejection, you think about who you're called to be. And, you know, based on your temperament, okay, let's be real, it's going to be harder for some than others. And we get that, okay? But it doesn't change the expectation. Temperaments explain who you are, but they don't justify. Because every temperament has strength training and things that you know are more of a challenge for you, but you work on them and you figure it out. So just so that we're clear, okay, my husband, who I talk about quite a bit in these series, is a blue-green, okay? Like introvert of introverts. Gets socialed out by very little, okay? Did he do it? He did it. Is it harder for him than somebody who's red or yellow? Yes, absolutely. But you have to be able to rise to the calling with which you were called. We talked about this also yesterday, okay? What has he called men to be? He has not called you to be a doormat. He has not called you to be passive. What he has called you to be is somebody who shows strength of character, okay? Somebody who is like reliable. Somebody who is a backbone for other people the way Christ was the backbone for the church. Every time you doubt whether this is what you need to be doing, you model Christ. And you remember what Christ was for the church. Okay? There's 1,000 verses I can give you about the strength of character that you're supposed to show. Okay? You just Google it. Okay? Bible Gateway Strength of Character. You Google it. Okay? But that is what he called you to be. And that manifests itself in every part of your life. Okay? In your family dynamics, with your siblings and your parents or whatever it is. In your professional dynamics, with your colleagues. In your romantic relationships, with whoever you're dating. Relationships, plural? Am I allowed to say that? Plural? It's okay. We're fine, right? We're past that? People can date more than once? Okay, we're past that. Okay? You are supposed to model that in everything. Strength of character is not manifested in shying away from responsibility. It is not manifested in shying away from something just because it's hard. That's being passive, and that is not who you are. And that is not what he's asked you to be. Okay? The other thing that he's asked you to be is selfless. Okay? You look at the original design of Adam. Okay? Then the Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to tend and keep it. Even in the original design, he had Adam working. Okay? Even in the original design, he had Adam working for stuff that's for other people. In the original design. Because he designed it that way, because he had a plan for all this. Okay? Look at 1 Timothy 5:8. If anyone does not provide for his own, and especially for those of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Let me be clear. Let me be clear. Okay? Let me be clear. For all the folks that are still in school and that are stressed that I just made like a breadwinner joke. Okay? Let me be clear. Provide for is not limited to a category. Okay? Just like we said yesterday, domestic is not limited to a task. It's about the environment that you create. Okay? Provide for is not limited to a task. It's not limited to a salary range. Okay? It's not limited to a pay stub. You provide for people in many, many different ways. Part of providing for somebody, men, in a relationship, is providing emotional security. Providing transparency. Providing communication. Providing an environment where somebody feels safe to have an open, transparent conversation with you. Okay? Don't get me wrong. Okay? My husband, I'm like super scatterbrained about like money and passports and that whole thing. Okay? My husband will, at the beginning of every week, at some point during the day, and I don't notice it, go into my wallet and put cash in my wallet. Okay? I know I can go to the ATM and get it. And transparently, I do everything on my phone. Just everything, every place takes tap. Who doesn't take tap? Like, who needs cash now? Okay? But it's just in his head, not because I can't, but because he wants to. That's part of the way he provides. But that's because that's based on who I am. So providing is not a task. It's not the responsibility for you to be the breadwinner. But it is the responsibility for you to be thoughtful and to think about what that person needs from you. And what that person, like what you could do to build that environment where that person feels supported. The way Christ supported the people around him. Okay? That's the design. God created men to love wholeheartedly, sacrificially, and out of that love, want to provide. Not because we need it. Okay? And like I said, this is not a financial conversation. Okay? This is about the environment that he creates. So when you think about what the design is supposed to be, okay, you think about Christ, who was an initiator, a model, a protector. He was compassionate. He was merciful. And, okay, back to the algorithm. He was bold, friends. He was very bold. So when we ask you, have you had a conversation with her? Okay? You channel Christ and you be bold, folks. Okay? Be bold. So, let's say we've convinced you to exit the no pathway and we're back to, have you had a conversation with her? The answer is yes. Okay? Next step. You've had a conversation, let's say. Okay? Are you interested enough to want to continue the conversation? Okay? Is she like blank stare? Or is it a little bit like give and take? Okay? If the answer is no, great. Bail, you're out, you owe nobody anything. Off you go, on to the next. Okay? If the answer is yes, there is enough interest there for me to want to continue a conversation. What's the next step? Okay? This is where I date myself. Okay? Because when we started Goals 9 years ago, okay, I would tell people, if you're interested, just ask her for her number. And now I get these blank stares from you people. Okay? What do you mean, ask for her number? What's he supposed to do with that? And then they put the Instagram, swipe up, where's Murray? Swipe up, okay? Like, I just learned that you can swipe up on Instagram to start a conversation. Excellent, okay? Listen, this is supposed to be, the I Am initiative is supposed to be culturally appropriate, culturally sensitive, all that stuff, okay? Whatever you think is culturally appropriate. If it's culturally, okay, a little bit too much to pick up the phone and call somebody, okay, fine. I'm very happy to accept that I come from a different generation. No problem, okay? Let's start with DMs. No problem, okay? But DMs should eventually translate into the exchange of a phone number. Like, if you're going to date somebody, you should probably have their phone number, right? Okay? And the text messages or whatever, WhatsApp, whatever the platform is that you choose, should eventually translate into something more. And maybe phone calls was a thing of my generation. I really hope it's not lost, but we'll talk about that. That should eventually translate into something that happens in person, right? If you look at like literature about communication, 80% of your communication with another individual is nonverbal. 80%. Look it up. There's multiple studies about this. 80% of your communication with another person is nonverbal. Okay? I appreciate that there are nuances to text messages. He didn't send an emoji, 1 exclamation mark instead of 2. Okay. There's nuances. I get it. Okay? But you're missing a lot by existing solely in the virtual world if that's what you choose. Okay? So, interested? Slide into her DMs or whatever. Ask for the phone number. Send a few text messages. Okay? I would love to raise the bar and ask you to like take it to in-person conversations, but whatever. We'll see. Okay? In your messaging phase or calling phase or whatever it is, okay? Is it going well? Like, is the conversation vibing? Like, are you vibing? If the answer is no, it could be for 2 reasons, okay? Number 1, you're not vibing it. No problem. Bail. You don't owe anybody anything. Or you're feeling like she's not vibing it, okay? If you're feeling like she's not vibing it, the question is, maybe she's not, and that's fine. Like, don't hound her, okay? But are you showing interest? Are you being clear that you're interested? Okay? Now, I know that this is going to seem a little bit like patronizing, okay? What does it mean to show interest? What does it mean? I'm telling you, the church I first gave this talk to, they're just like, can you just give us, like, spell out every step, okay? Let's talk about it. Maybe we don't have to spend too much time on it because you guys are, like, you know, a little bit more emotionally progressive than them, but let's talk about it, okay? What is showing interest, okay? Are you initiating conversations? When the conversation dies, okay, and you're off that topic, do you initiate another one tomorrow? Or do you just let it die and wait? Right? Are you responding? You know what I hate? I hate, okay? Where, like, these 2 people that are in this phase and they're talking or whatever, and, like, I'll be sitting next to one of them, and then the person messages. I'm like, hey, why don't you respond? Oh, no, I can't respond before 11 minutes and 49 seconds. Why not? They're like, I don't want to look thirsty. Are you guys joking? Okay. Like, if you're not at work, okay, if you're available, if you're free, why are we playing these arbitrary games? Who cares? She's not sitting there with a timer like, oh, 11 minutes and 48 seconds, out, deal breaker, sorry guys. Like, we need to be able to avoid these arbitrary timelines, okay? Are you, dare I say, there's a few people in the back, I'm not sure if I can talk about stuff like this. Are you flirting? I'm a little scared. Listen, I'm just by the way, I'm from Canada, okay? And so if you don't like what I'm saying, I'm going home on Tuesday, okay? Okay, flirting, okay? Flirting is fun. It's okay. And it's part of the way that you show interest in another person. It's part of the way that you show that person that this is going really well and I want to continue it, okay? How do you flirt? I don't know, nice shoes. I don't know. I'm very old. I obviously don't flirt. I've been married for a long time. But like, what? I like your, Tonya, like, whatever. Okay? You'll figure it out, okay? Obviously, don't take your flirting tips from me, okay? Obviously, okay? But is flirting a way that you show that you're interested? Yes. It's okay. Flirt a little bit. No problem, okay? Are you making an effort, okay? Are you looking for mutual times where it's convenient to talk? Are you looking for like ways to keep this conversation going? Because if you're not making an effort, okay, she might not think you're interested. And rightly so, okay? You've got to be able to show guys that you're interested. Yes, makes you vulnerable. But hey, that's Christ, okay? Christ was vulnerable. Christ was bold. Christ put himself out there knowing he was going to get rejected. But you need to be what Christ was to the church, okay? And let me tell you, it speaks volumes. Because every girl who's ever dated a guy has had the guy that's too scared to take a step forward and just lives in the DMs for 7 years, okay? Everybody's had that. And the guy who doesn't, who rises to the calling, that guy's refreshing. That guy is what you didn't know you wanted, okay? All right, so we talked about the showing interest, okay? Let's say the conversation is going strong, okay? And now you've texted and the phone number and maybe the phone calls and all that kind of stuff. Okay? What's the next step? Ask her out. Woo! Whenever I say this, the boys lose their bananas. Okay? What's the appropriate timeline between the texting and the asking out? You can't be too soon, you're gonna look too thirsty, and they lose their minds. Okay? Okay. We have a pandemic in Canada. Okay, it's a pandemic. Epidemic, whatever. What's the right word? What is the epidemiologist in here? Okay? Where these guys will slide into the DMs, okay, and the text messages and the whatever, and it's going strong, whatever, and it'll be 7 months of that. Are you guys joking? There was one guy that was like, yeah, no, like, we're not really, like, in a relationship yet, but, like, I know, like, everything about her life. I was like, oh, really? Like, how come? He's like, yeah, we've been texting for a year and a half. And you've never gone out once? Not once. Okay, folks, okay? Please, we have to set an upper ceiling on this step. We have to, okay? Let's talk about it, okay? Number one, in living in the DMs, okay, and not progressing outside of that, you have missed your opportunity to show your initiative, to show your leadership, to show your boldness, and to show that your eyes are on Christ, and your eyes are modeling Christ. What you've shown her is that you would rather prioritize your own vulnerability and your own fear of rejection than do what you're supposed to be doing. You've missed your opportunity. And like we said yesterday, dating is an assessment. And you have failed. You have failed. Before you even started the relationship. Okay? This is passive. Don't be that. That's the most I can say. Don't be that. Okay? You're also giving her mixed messages because you're talking but not acting, okay? And eventually, at some point, talk is cheap. And she might not wait for you to get your act together because in this digital world, everybody's got option paralysis, swipe left, right, up, down, whatever, all this stuff, and there's 65 different conversations that can happen in the same moment, okay? So, don't wait too long. Do I have a rough idea of what I think is appropriate in terms of timelines? Yes, it doesn't matter. I'm old, it doesn't matter. All I'm going to say is, culturally appropriate, don't wait too long to ask her out. Ask her out. In person. Okay? Not a FaceTime date or whatever these people are doing right now. I was talking to somebody, like, the day before I came. Okay? She's like, oh, we had such a great date. Like, I feel like it went so well. Like, I'm so comfortable with him. I was like, oh, yeah? Tell me about the date. Like, where'd you guys go? Like where did he take you? She's like, oh, no, we were both home. We watched a movie together on FaceTime. What did you connect about? You're watching a movie and there's no speech and you're in separate homes on devices. What are we talking about? Okay? Again, I know that there are long distance things and whatever and special circumstances, and we'll get there. Okay? But assuming that proximity is not a challenge that you have, ask her out in person. Maybe she's going to say no. Maybe she's going to say no. Maybe she's not vibing it. Maybe your Tonia's not that nice. Okay? Maybe she's going to say no. Okay? What are we afraid of? What holds you back from asking somebody out? What holds you back from being able to take this step? Okay? Sorry, before we get there, let's just go back to this portion, okay? So, don't wait too long, ask her out, okay? Did it go well? No? Okay, bro, you're out, no problem, okay? Did it go well? Yes, okay? Tell her you want to go out again because you had a great time and it was so lovely, okay? it's not thirsty to tell her that you had a great time. We cannot be afraid of this vulnerability because it holds you back, it paralyzes you, and transparently, okay, we're going to get to the girls, you fail the assessment. You fail. Because your eyes are on yourself, not on Christ. Okay? Went well, tell her it went well. Okay? All right. I got a lot of heat for this one. Are you ready? Boys, everybody fight. Faces are going to start turning red. Okay, we're going to fight. Okay? How many dates does it take before you define the relationship? Okay, what does define the relationship mean? Okay? I'm not going to give you my number yet. I think it's up on the screen, so I'm shooting myself in the foot. Okay? There is a certain number of casual dates where you're not committed to each other. You just went out for coffee. Not every person that you go out for coffee with once or twice is your boyfriend. Okay? That's not your boyfriend, girls. Okay? And boys, same thing. You take her out for coffee once and you want to kill yourself, not your girlfriend. Not your girlfriend. Okay? But there is a certain number of dates after which guys, okay, and guys over there, everybody, okay, you have a responsibility to call this what it is. You can't just live in limbo for 8 years because that tells her that you're afraid of the difficult conversations. And it tells her that you'd rather prioritize your fear of rejection than rise to the calling with which you were called. What is that certain number of dates? Woo, I get slaughtered at home when we talk about this. So this is Sarah's rule, okay? Sarah, who lives in Canada, who has no vested interest in your diocese, okay? Sarah, okay? Okay. My opinion, with a grain of salt, opinion, okay? 5 dates. Who's gonna fight? Who's gonna fight? He's gonna fight. Justin's gonna fight. You're gonna fight. Okay, we'll fight. Oh, I like you, friend. I like you. Yeah. That rocket, guys. Are you single? Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Don't answer that. 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 But you guys probably already know. Don't answer that. Okay? Okay. Why, before we fight, okay, before I fight with Justin over there, okay, before we fight, okay, why do I often get people who fight me on this number? Listen, this number is a rough guideline, okay? This is not like you follow it to the letter of the law, like step 1, step 2, step 3. This is a rough guideline. 5, 7, whatever. The point is that it's not 7 months, okay, of living the DMs. Why? Why do I get people who fight me and say, this is crazy, this is too soon, okay? Because they hear the word relationship and they go bonkers. They get like this, and commitment, and I'm not ready, and they just like start to internally panic, okay? Why do they internally panic? Let's talk about what is a relationship. What does it mean that you've taken this from 5 coffee dates to now defining the relationship? It means that the 5 coffee dates went well, and you want to keep doing it. It means that the 5 coffee dates went well, and there aren't significant red flags yet where I want to stick a fork in my eye. That's what it means. Okay? Does it mean that you're going to marry this girl? No. Does it mean that you need to go and like start saving up for a ring? No. But if you're financially savvy, like you should be that anyways. But moving on, okay? Like, does it mean that you are obligated to this person to now meet with her and the clock starts ticking? No. No. We talked about this yesterday. A relationship is an assessment, okay? And if in your assessment, okay, that person does not pass, that is a success because it's divorce averted, okay? It's being yoked to somebody that is not yokeable, okay? Averted. It is a success. It does not mean that you're going to marry this person. It means that you want to see a little bit more and you want to understand a little bit more. That's it. What it also means, okay? Boys, close the apps. Okay? You define the relationship. Stop swiping up, left, down, right, everywhere you go. Okay? Stop it. Close the apps. Stop looking. Okay? Stop surveying the market. Okay? Stop. Because if you're going to define the relationship, it means that you've had enough fun that you want to see if this is going to go somewhere. That's what it means. Okay? So stop freaking out at the number, okay, 5, 7, 10, whatever it is, because you don't understand what a relationship is. A relationship, you walk in a relationship at a 50-50, okay? I also get guys, love this one, okay, that have issues with labels. I don't want to label it. I don't want to label anything. I don't like labels, okay? I want it to be put in a box. Labels, okay? We're going to talk about this in a little bit, okay? Because what I hear them say when they say labels, 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 labels is expectations. They don't want somebody to have unreasonable expectations of them, okay? Agreed. I agree. I also don't want her or her family or her parents to have unreasonable expectations of you. But clarifying those expectations is on you, friend. That's your job. Your job is to be Christ. Your job is to initiate. Your job is to have the difficult conversations. And part of the way you show that your eyes are on Christ is that you initiate those conversations. You initiate that clarification. You set the playing field for this is what I think is reasonable. This is like the trajectory that I have in mind. What is yours? And you level set after you define the relationship. So you're scared of labels because you're scared of unreasonable expectations? Talk about it, Habibi. Take matters into your hands. It is for you to take. And it is for you to talk about. Okay? Remember this. This is my favorite verse in relationship goals. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and sound mind. Don't run away from your own shadow. You're worried about unreasonable expectations? Clarify them. Then they're not unspoken and they're not unreasonable. And if you don't agree on the expectations, bail, bro. You didn't buy a ring. No problem. Okay? In no way are you committed to anything. You have the expectations conversation. She's crazy. Off you go. Okay? No big deal. What if, okay, you ask her out again, and she says no. You think it went well, but what you didn't know is that she wanted to stick a fork in her eye. Okay? What happens? So what? And I know that's easy for me to say. Okay? It's easy for me to say because I'm a girl and I was asked out. Okay? It's easy for me to say because I'm red and I don't care what anybody else thinks. Okay? Because I'm red and I'm always right. Okay? It's easy for me to say because I'm extroverted, and it would be a lot harder for me to have a blue-green standing up here saying the same thing. Okay? But what I want you to appreciate is that even if she says no, it speaks to your boldness and your courage. It speaks to your sound mind. It speaks to your eyes being fixed on Christ. Okay? And she doesn't define who you are. Okay? She said no. Okay. That doesn't make you any less valuable in your eyes, in God's eyes, in the eyes of the people around you. Okay? That verse in John 5 that I have there, that's really small, I'm sure you guys can't read it. It talks about why on earth would you place your value in the hands of somebody else when you know that your value is dictated by God. So don't be afraid of the rejection because she doesn't control your value. She doesn't hold that in her hands. Don't give her power that doesn't belong to her. So she says no, no problem. You get back up, you try again. Okay? And each time you try, it gets less scary. Okay? So where are you supposed to be? You are supposed to be Christ. Okay? You are supposed to lead with love, with gentleness, with confidence. You are supposed to be bold. You are supposed to be the provider the way Christ was the provider. Not necessarily financially, okay? But environment, thoughtfulness, okay? There are many ways to be able to do that. Be clear, and all of this should be pursued with spirituality, emotional maturity, purity. We're going to talk about that word purity later, because there's some, I don't know about you guys, but I was raised with a very specific definition of what it is that I actually challenged as an adult, but we'll talk about that later. Okay? All right. We wrecked the guys. Girls. Okay? And back there, everywhere. Okay? So let's start with girls. This is one of two algorithms, okay? Because we're complex human beings. Okay? Have you had a conversation with him? Okay? No? Why not? What are you afraid of? Are you a chicken? Okay? If you are, that's fine. You don't want to have a conversation with him? You could just wait for the rest of your life, no problem. Okay? Just sit there in your corner in church. Nobody's talking to you. And you just live there forever. No problem. Okay? Be bold, friends. It's just a conversation. Okay? If the answer is yes, great. Are you interested enough to want to continue the conversation? If the answer is no, and he's weird, and some serious red flags, no problem. You're out. You're not invested. Bye. Never see him again. No problem. Okay? If the answer is yes, that you were what did I just do? That you were sufficiently intrigued by the conversation, the next step, you guys have heard this before, is have you shown interest? Okay? Look familiar? Look familiar? Okay? Okay? Equality. Okay? What does showing interest look like? Okay? Girls, I want you to remember this term, positive reinforcement. Okay? Remember we talked about, for those who were here yesterday, we talked about how if you don't tell them, they are not going to know. They cannot read your mind. They are not emotionally as intelligent as you are. They have to be taught. They have to be. Okay? It doesn't come intuitively to them. Okay? That discussion about positive reinforcement is how you reinforce when he gets it right. Okay? We talked about yesterday, he gets it wrong, he drops the ball. Use the strength that you have in you to not swoop in and take over. Okay? And rob from him his opportunities to rise to the design. Okay? He does it right. Okay? He comes to find you at church or wherever. Okay? And you have a conversation. He's doing it right. Okay? Your response should be positive reinforcement. Okay? If you really like this guy, he comes to talk to you at church, he's like, oh, hey, how's it going? Like, good. You bolt to the other side. That's negative reinforcement. Okay? That tells him, she doesn't like me, I can't ever talk to her again. And then these girls are like, oh, he never talked to me again after that. Oh, he's not leading. Okay? You have to be able to reinforce when they're doing something right. Part of that is showing interest. Part of that is responding. He comes to talk to you, okay? Yes, maybe you're a little bit nervous, but if you just clam up and run the other direction, what are you communicating, right? 80% of your communication is nonverbal. So make sure you're communicating what you want. Because he's not a mind reader. He can't guess. Okay? Flirting. I'm so gonna get killed. Flirt, it's okay. Remember we talked about this? I like your Tonya. I like your Isharb. Okay? Like this. That's flirting. Very nice. Oh, is that Saint Mina? Wow. Like, that kind of thing. Okay? Do not take your tips from me. We need somebody who's much cooler who can talk about this flirting thing. Okay? Fine. Okay? And making an effort. Okay? He's told you something. He's got a stressful situation at work. He's whatever. Hey, how was that thing that you told me about last week? Make an effort to show that you're interested, okay? You're intrigued. Because if you're communicating that you're not, it's creepy for him to keep coming, right? You've communicated disinterest. That makes him a stalker, okay? Don't make the guys you like into stalkers, okay? Communicate your interest. Okay, so have you shown interest? No, please don't make him into a stalker, okay? Yes, you have shown interest. You're flirting. The Tonya has Saint Mina on it, okay? We ask them to ask you out. Say yes, please, okay? The number of times I have had girls, they're like, oh, Sarah, guess what? He asked me out. I'm like, okay, what'd you say? I said, I have to check my schedule. Why? I don't want to look thirsty. Please. We don't want to play these games, okay? We're all adults. We're all mature human beings. Do not communicate something to him that you don't mean, okay? If you are happy that he asked you out on a date, say yes when he asks you. Don't pretend like your social calendar is too busy, okay? We all know that you're going to be home watching the clock waiting for 11 minutes and 48 seconds, okay? Say yes, okay? Did the date go well? No? Okay, bye. See ya. Never again. No problem. You're not under any obligation, okay? Did the date go well? Yes? Tell him you had a great time. Sound familiar? Huh? Sound familiar? Tell him you had a great time. There is nothing wrong with positive reinforcement. And girls, we're going to talk about this a little bit later as well, okay? Our design, okay? Proverbs 31, strength and honor, okay? It takes strength to be able to communicate transparently. And that is what we are good at. Okay? You had a great time? Tell him, had a great time. You're not thirsty. I would argue that you're not even vulnerable at that point. Okay? All right. 5 good dates, 5 asterisk. Justin, we're going to fight later. Okay? 5 asterisk. Okay? You had a good date. You expect him to define the relationship. 5 asterisk. Okay? Girls. So guys, we talked about this. Okay? Don't let go of the opportunity to show who you are and who you are trying to be and what your focus is. Girls, don't settle. Okay? Like I said, 5 plus or minus. Okay? But we talk about, in Proverbs 31, being clothed with strength and honor. Okay? A reflection is that strength, is that it takes strength to be clear. It takes honor to stand your ground about what you will or will not expect. Okay? What you will, or will not accept. I would humbly offer to you girls that you should not accept somebody living in your DMs for 7 months. Shouldn't. You deserve better. And you deserve somebody who's going to try harder than that. You do. And I'm not saying put them in a box, okay? But there is an assessment at play here. And girls, this is why we tell you, you put your heart under lock and key. Because your heart will say like, oh, like he's just a shy guy. You know, like, oh, he's really busy in his undergrad program. Okay? And you'll start making excuses for them. Okay? Do you know why I do that? You know why I do that? Because when I started dating my husband, he was at his peak of busyness. Like, his life was never more hectic than it was. Our first date, I don't talk about his career because, like, I don't love it, but, like, my husband was in residency. Okay? Sorry. How many doctors in the room? I'm so sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Okay? Like, our first date, he was post-call. I don't know what your, like, medical residency setup is here, but, like, back in the day, we've now since, like, implemented human rights for medical residents. They used to work 36-hour shifts straight. So he'd be on from, like, Friday at 7 a.m. and, like, Saturday morning, okay, or Saturday, like, lunchtime, okay, he's coming off shift. Our first date, he drove from, you guys don't know geography in Canada, but, like, Hamilton, which is, like, 2.5 hours away, straight to, like, East Markham, where I was working, to take me out on my lunch break, which I was 30 minutes late for because I was trying to avoid him, okay? Post-call. So, yeah, I know people are busy, okay? But if you're into it, you'll make the time, okay? So don't give him these excuses about why he's just permanently not rising to the calling. And it takes honor to be able to lay your boundaries and to decide what you will and will not accept, okay? Girls, he gave us that decision making. He gave us that autonomy. Don't take it and give it to somebody to whom it does not belong, okay? Remember, this is the design. Christ, church, okay? The church is not a doormat. The church does not allow itself to just be disrespected and walked all over, okay? I do not, let me tell you something, okay? This is a sore spot. Maybe I shouldn't bring this up. This is a sore spot. Okay, well, that's fine. I'm going to shoot myself in the foot. No problem, okay? The church is a place of reverence. The church is a place of honor, okay? When our high school girls or our little girls or whatever come into the church and they're not dressed appropriately, okay? What do we tell them? There's nothing inherently wrong with your shoulder. There's nothing inherently wrong with your kneecap, okay? There's nothing inherently shameful about that. But the difference between inside the church and outside the church is reverence and is respect and is honor. And the church accepts you, whoever you are, okay? But the church also demands reverence and respect and honor. And that is who we are. We are called to be the church, okay? We are called to be like the words of Christ, the communicators of Christ, the people that empower the teachings of Christ. We are called to be the refuge. And you have to be able to determine what is acceptable in the church and what is not acceptable in the church. Don't give that decision making to somebody to whom it does not belong. Okay? Again, we talked about this yesterday. Our strength, okay, our design, girls, is that we are excellent communicators. Okay? We know exactly what we're doing with our words. We know if this person is walking away from the conversation with us and they're going to be tormented over the words that we just said because we designed them to her, okay? Or if that person's going to walk away like, I feel restored. Make sure that you are using that superpower for good and not for evil. Make sure you are using that superpower the way the church is meant to use that superpower, okay? How many of us know somebody that was hurt by the church, okay? And we say, oh, what a tragedy. That's not the way it's supposed to be. That's not the design. We got to fix things. That is you. That is you. You are the church. And you are not designed to destroy somebody. You are designed to restore them, okay? Be the church, okay? I want to talk about this piece about emotional safety, okay? I love this verse in Proverbs 31. By the way, we're talking about marriage in Proverbs 31, not dating, okay? So she will not plant a vineyard for you, everybody, okay? Marriage, maybe after marriage she will plant you a vineyard, okay? Who can find a virtuous wife, for her worth is far above rubies? The heart of her husband safely trusts her. I love this with my whole heart. I love it. You want to know why? Because what is the church? The church is a refuge. The church is a safe haven, okay? The church is come as you are, okay? The church is like, we got you. We got your back. You're going through a tough time. We will walk that with you. You're celebrating. We will celebrate with you. Safe haven. You've screwed up. You've made a mistake. Come. We love you anyway. You are not defined by your mistakes. You are not defined by your poor decisions. That is the church, okay? That is what we are in our homes. In our homes. If my children have to ask me, Mommy, do you love me even though I'm in trouble? I'm not doing a good job of being the refuge. Okay? If my husband is like afraid to say something and is walking on eggshells because I'm going to eat him alive, okay? I'm not doing my job of creating emotional safety. It's his job to create emotional security, okay? So your pace of the relationship has to match where he's feeling. And it's his responsibility to walk through milestones appropriately. And it's his responsibility to communicate where he's at, okay? It is your responsibility to make it safe for him to do that. It is your responsibility to make it safe for him to make a mistake and to be better next time. But if every mistake he makes, you've destroyed him, okay, and you've reduced him down to this, you are not doing your job of being the safe haven. The heart that the husband safely trusts. Because it's not safe to be anything less than perfect. And that's unfair and that's unreasonable. Be the church, okay? Be the church. I love this quote from St. John Chrysostom. Be the church. Be the motivation. Be the inspiration, okay? Be the empowerment. That is the design. And if you rise to the design, what you can accomplish is like, there's no limits on it. Because that's how he designed it. So, girls, emotional security, okay? Empowerment of the teachings of Christ, communication of the teachings of Christ, and strength, honor, wisdom, discernment. Okay? Now, I want to talk about this concept of strength, okay? Because strength goes both ways. And I want to be very clear, there's lots of overlap in what we're telling the guys and the girls, right? So if you duplicated slides, made this talk very easy to prepare, okay? Strength goes both ways, okay? For guys, it takes strength to have the difficult conversations. It takes strength to be vulnerable. It takes strength to initiate when you're not sure where things are at. It takes a lot of strength to control the pace of a relationship, knowing that you're like, do I like her? Do I not? Milestones, she wants this, I want this, we disagree. It takes strength to be able to do that and take initiative about it, okay? Girls, it takes strength to communicate. clearly and transparently. It takes strength to be able to create that environment of emotional safety where somebody can make a mistake and they're not like immediately dismissed for it. Like the church. The church does not dismiss us and like kick us out for our mistakes. Okay? It takes strength to show wisdom and honor, and it takes strength to let somebody make a mistake and let them pick themselves up and do better next time. So the strength goes both ways. Okay? Okay. Second algorithm for the girls. Okay? Because we are complex human beings, aka smarter. Okay? Are you interested in him? Yes or no? Are you interested enough to want to... Okay, sorry. Are you interested in him? Yes or no? This side of the algorithm is identical. Okay? This is where it gets interesting. Okay? Are you interested in him? No. Why not? He's a convicted felon. Fair. Okay? Fair. Are you interested in him? No. Why not? He goes to St. Paul's. Sorry. That's a shot at you. Sorry. Okay? Is that fair? Are you interested in him? No. Why not? He was born in Egypt and not Southern California. Why? Okay? Sometimes, and we talked about this yesterday, okay, the idea of a deal breaker and a preference, we minimize people and we put them in a box. And we define them by superficial characteristics that's not fair. Okay? You make sure that if you're not interested in somebody, it's because of something real. It's because of something that is a moral, a value, a conviction, okay, an ethical consideration, and it's not something silly like, my minimum height requirement is 6'3", sorry. 6'1" ain't gonna cut it. Okay? I was this unreasonable person. This was me. And I can roast the girls who are like this because I was the girl that was like this, okay? I wouldn't date my husband because of the church that he grew up in. Still don't love it, but it's fine, okay? It's totally fine. He's the diamond in the rough is what I call him, okay? I did not date my husband because of his chosen profession. It was not about that life, okay? Many things that limited who he is. And once somebody like chipped away at me, okay, and made me give him a chance, like mind blown. So don't define somebody by characteristics that are superficial, that don't mean anything. You make sure that you have teased out the difference between a deal breaker and a preference. Okay? I'll tell you a funny story. It's not really my story to tell, so I'm not gonna name any names. Okay? There's a priest in Toronto, okay? And he's cool. He's a cool guy. Like he's like liberal-minded, he's progressive, he's a cool guy. Okay? I've been friends with them, like him and his wife, from before priesthood, like years ago. He's a new priest, it's like 3 years or something, okay? Like years ago. Their wedding was like maybe like 15 years ago. I was at their wedding 15 years ago, okay? I know her. She's born and raised in Toronto, like she's one of us. We go to the same home church, or like my previous home church, like one of us, okay? She's like, so I was born and raised in Toronto, okay? Like I sometimes like throw out Arabic just like for comedic relief, but like I'm like super whitewashed, okay? And she's exactly like me. Like, exactly like me, okay? The first time I met her husband was on their wedding day, okay? And the first time, we're not that close, okay? The first time I heard him speak was in their wedding speech, okay? Guy gets up to give his wedding speech, heavily accented. I'm floored, okay? I'm sitting there like, are you guys hearing this? Like, grammar's off, like, I'm floored. Okay? Not because like there's anything wrong with being heavily accented, but because this is not what I expected for this individual who's like super whitewashed like me. Okay? And I'm floored. Okay? Then I get to know him. Okay? Over the last, 10 years or whatever. Makes sense. It makes sense why they're together. They have a beautiful marriage. I have asked them 100 times to please come and be on our panel for relationship goals because they are the primary example of deal breakers versus preferences. He is everything she didn't know she wanted. And she did not let his accent be what he was defined by. He's a cool guy, honestly. I like him too. He's a cool guy. Okay? They are the prime example. Okay. Now, okay. So we've talked about like the pre-defining the relationship phase. Okay? Now we're going to talk about post defining the relationship. So you're in a relationship, okay? You fast forwarded through the dating navigation, okay? And now you're in a relationship, okay? Expectations. Am I okay for time? If I'm going too long, just cut me off. We're good, okay? All right. So, remember I told you this church, they want like really clear algorithms and all this kind of stuff, okay? I'm about to get shot by you folks. Shot, okay? Because we're going to go through like the rough stages of a dating relationship, okay? The timelines, which is what I always get shot for, okay? I'm just ready for Justin. I feel his like glare in the corner, okay? The timelines that you see at the bottom are from my generation, okay? My generation, okay? We had a golden rule, blah, blah, blah. I'm very old, like, it's fine, okay? These timelines may not approximate what is culturally done. I don't know, done, okay? When I say that, I just want you to second guess what's culturally appropriate, right? Like, you gotta make sure that it's culturally appropriate for you, not culturally appropriate for Southern LA. Because there's a lot of stuff that's culturally appropriate for Southern LA that's really not culturally appropriate for you. So you make sure it makes sense. But like, this is like Sarah's generation, okay? So, these are like the rough stages of a relationship, and there's some literature, not very robust, but some literature around like the psychological trajectory of a relationship as you pass through like the different stages of like commitment and questioning and all that kind of stuff, okay? So we're gonna go through each individual phase and tips for each individual phase, okay? But like I said, the timelines, extrapolate that onto whatever is like not shocking, okay? Okay, so let's talk about the first stage, okay? So the first stage is now the guy has DTR'd, sorry, DTR means define the relationship, okay? Now the guy has DTR'd and you guys are just like over the moon, okay? You've had 5 dates at your specialty coffee places with cold foam and all these like frou-frou coffee things that you guys drink in California, okay? Whatever, we drink Tim Hortons, like Nescafe and like a little bit of milk and we're good, okay? It's totally fine, I'm not judging you, okay? And you guys are like over the moon now, okay? You've got stars in your eyes and he's got stars in his eyes and everything is lovey-dovey and so fun and oh my gosh and the flirting and my face is turning red all the time and you read the message and you squeal because you're so excited and everything's so beautiful, okay? Love it, okay? I don't want to be the damper, okay? I don't want to be the Grim Reaper, okay, or the bearer of bad news, but it is in this phase that it is most important to keep your heart under lock and key. Most important. Because if you let yourself be governed by emotions in this phase and not logic, okay, first of all, your timeline expedites, okay? So all of a sudden, where you were watching a movie at normal speed, you're on 1.5. Okay? Because your life is not on pace with your emotions. You've let your emotions run wild, okay? And your life maybe does not have the capacity to be able to catch up, okay? Your emotions are running wild and you want to like L word and you want to get married because you're in that infatuation phase, okay? And people are like, it's crazy to get engaged after like 5 coffee dates and 1 dinner date, okay? So it is very important in this phase that your emotions are under lock and key. It is very important in this phase that you're looking at Jeremiah 17:9, Proverbs 4:23, 1 John 3:20, all the different verses that talk about how the heart is deceitful. Okay? Because the heart is not grounded by appropriate timelines. Okay? The heart is not grounded by rationale. So please be very careful about letting your heart govern this stage, okay? During this phase, it's a very good idea to have a few conversations right off the bat, okay? Number 1, I'd actually say deal breakers is number 1. I'm going to flip that order, okay? Number 1 is deal breakers, okay? If you have deal breakers that are non-negotiables for you, again, we hope that you've done your own self-reflection, okay? And your deal breakers are real, like, ethical, moral, like values-based convictions, okay? And if you're crazy, you're crazy. It doesn't matter. You still can't live with it. It's fine, okay? It is important for you to have this conversation with that individual as soon as you can. Because you don't want to waste each other's time, right? If you know that if the person believes in X, that's a hard no for you, why would you let your heart roam free knowing that you're going to have to walk away? It's just not logical, Okay? So like for us, just so you know, we had our deal breaker conversation like almost like 1 or 2 dates after the DTR. He had deal breakers, I had deal breakers. Okay? And we just got everything out on the table, and it set the relationship up with appropriate expectations. Okay? The other conversation that is very important to have in this stage of the relationship is the boundary conversations. Okay? This is where it gets juicy. Okay? Is the Slido open? Start texting in your questions about the juice. Okay? They haven't posted it? Sorry guys. No juicy questions for now, I guess. Okay? This is the phase where it's very important to have boundary conversations, because you have to define the boundaries that you're going to date within. Okay? Because if somebody goes outside of those boundaries, it has to be very clear that that's unacceptable. And if they go unspoken, you guys are navigating blind. If I think this is okay, but the other person doesn't think it's okay, this person is secretly hurt by this, the other person has no sweet clue. Okay? The other thing is that it's important to understand if you guys share the same version of boundaries. Because if you don't, there is a difference. Oh, Slido's there. If you don't, there is a difference between accepting somebody else's boundaries and agreeing with somebody else's boundaries. Okay? I'll give you an example. No, that one's a little too controversial. It's a little too controversial. You guys are gonna slaughter me. Okay? Actually, since I've been here, I really feel like SMSV's like, maybe we're too open-minded, but anyways. Come visit. We're a fun time, I'll give you an example, okay? So, you know what? Let's just call a spade a spade. Let's talk about the physical stuff. Let's just do it. I don't live here. I'm going home. Let's just do it, okay? So, let's say the point of contention is physical boundaries, okay? One person in the couple feels that this is the appropriate maximum, okay? And the other person feels like the appropriate maximum is like up here, okay? There is a difference between this person accepting the lower threshold. The reason there's a difference is because if they just accept, it is much more of a struggle to adhere to those physical boundaries because they don't agree. They're just accepting it because they like you, okay? So you're in the heat of the moment, no pun intended, okay, California heat wave, and they're struggling with themselves, but in their heart of hearts, they don't believe that this is wrong. And they're just accepting it out of respect for you. So they take anything that they want to perceive as a hint that you're second-guessing your own boundaries, and they run with it. Because they don't agree. They accept. Okay? The flip side of that coin is agreeing on what boundaries are, where both of you believe in the same line. Because both people will be able to acknowledge if a mistake happens, that shouldn't have happened. Whereas in the previous situation, one person is racked with guilt, and the other person's like, it's not a big deal, it's fine. And that causes an even further mismatch in the relationship. Okay? So there's a really big difference between agreeing and accepting. Now I am going to say, okay, when my husband and I had a bunch of like boundary, deal breaker conversations or whatever, there were a lot of things that like he was on the fence about, I was on the fence about. Okay? And in that very productive conversation, we came to mutual agreement, right? Like we debated back and forth about a few things and we came to mutual agreement. Excellent. Okay? But you have to define the difference between agreement and acceptance. Make sense? Yeah? Okay. Fight me, but fight me after, I guess, because I think I'm running out of time. Okay, so that's physical boundaries. Okay? Emotional boundaries, this is as important. Okay? You guys have to be on the same page about how this is going to go. Okay? Guys, if you feel like date number 8 is a little bit too early to be dropping the L word, okay, she has to know that. Because maybe she drops the L word and you're like, thank you. And she's like, what just happened? We're breaking up. And she spirals and she has no idea what's going on. But at the inception of the relationship, if you set the playing field, and this is a difficult conversation, okay, but like we said, you can do difficult things, okay? If at the beginning of the relationship, you set the playing field, everybody's operating under the same expectations. Everybody's operating knowing what is reasonable to expect. So, for example, okay? My husband and I come from a different generation, okay? Different culture, I get it, okay? When we were dating, yeah, it's really hot in here, isn't it? Yeah, people look like they're roasting, okay? When we were dating, okay, in Canada, back in the 1900s when we were dating, okay, the golden rule was that people would date for a year, okay? I know, my gosh, the commitment phobes in the room are going to be losing their minds, okay? I know. But that was like the golden rule, okay? And after a year, you may not know every single thing about this person, but you know enough to know what kind of person they are, okay? At the beginning of our relationship, we had to talk about it. Like, do you believe in the golden rule or do you not? Is this reasonable or is it not? At 1 year, okay, either you're feeling it and you're going to start like L-wording and ring shopping and whatever, or at a year, if you're still not sure, you're going to get out. Because if you don't know by that point, you're out the door, okay? We had to have this conversation. We agreed early on in this conversation that we're not going to drop the L word until we're ready to like commit. Because the L word is a loaded word and it carries with it expectations, it carries with it milestones, it carries with it like a sense of responsibility that your relationship has to be able to match before you drop it. So we agreed that when he L words, that's my cue, okay, that he doesn't want out of the relationship, he actually wants to commit. And he's going ring shopping. That's my cue, okay? I'm not saying that that's the way for everybody. You L word, whatever. I mean, I have opinions about it, but they're just opinions, okay? Whatever. What I'm saying is the importance is having that conversation. Clarifying the playing field that you're operating in, okay? What is the pace of the relationship that is appropriate to you? If this guy wants to take you out and meet all his friends, date number 1, and you're like, that's like a 7-month milestone, okay? If you don't talk about that, there's going to be a mismatch in expectations. Or vice versa, okay, this is the most common example. She thinks that meeting her friends, date 1, is appropriate, and he thinks that's a 7-month milestone. So they're now on date 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and he hasn't brought her out to meet her friends. In her mind, she's like, you know what? He's going to break up with me. This guy's not serious. I'll just get out before he breaks up with me. But he's in. He's feeling it. But he has a different expectation about when that milestone is appropriate. These things have to be clarified at the beginning of the relationship to prevent unnecessary confusion, unnecessary frustration, and to make sure that your expectations are appropriate, to make sure your expectations are matched. And guys, this is part of controlling the pace of the relationship. This is part of it, okay? If you know that you're not going to be ready to get serious before, like, whatever, X number of months, years, whatever is appropriate for you, okay? And all of a sudden, it's like 2 weeks in, and you're dropping the L-bomb, okay? You haven't controlled the pace of the relationship. Because what you've said doesn't match your expectations of the progress of this relationship. And you've now misled her. Okay? If you're at month 3 and there's some serious red flags that have come up and you're not sure if this is going to continue, but you ask her to meet her parents, okay? Are you controlling the pace of the relationship? No. Because you're communicating that you're further than where you actually are. And that is your responsibility. So these things have to be communicated as early as you can to prevent unnecessary misunderstandings, frustration, and a lot of confusion. Okay? The other thing that should be clarified, I think, in my opinion, okay, is relational boundaries, okay? So how much time together is too much? How much is too little, okay? If her expectation, because you're her first boyfriend and she's only watched Disney movies growing up and blah, 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 is that you see her 7 days a week, okay? And you're like, but like, we gotta work, okay? And your expectation is 2 days a week, she's gonna read that as, he's not interested in me. He only wants to see me 2 of 7. What percentage is that even, okay? And your expectation is, this is going great. Everything's great. And then she blindsides you with a breakup. And you have no idea what just happened. But this could have been prevented if you guys defined the relational boundaries. How much is too much? Too little? Communication. A big one around relational boundaries is public. Okay? How does each person in this relationship feel about other people knowing? Depending on your upbringing, depending on where you are, some people are like, or like going public will be like, the ring picture, like, guess what, engaged, she said yes, okay? Other people are just like, no, we're good. We have nothing to hide. Not saying that one is right or wrong, but you have to be able to talk about it so that you guys are in the same place and to prevent unnecessary frustration. Okay? So, we talked about the design, okay? And that the design for guys is that you are rising to the calling. You are modeling Christ in your relationships, okay? What does that actually look like, practically, right? It's very nice for this random person from Canada to come in here and tell you to be leaders and strength of character and all that stuff, but what does that actually look like in a relationship, okay? Emotional examples, we talked about controlling the pace of the relationship. Don't let your words mislead her about how far along you are, okay? If you're not ready to commit, don't start your sentences with, when we get married. Because when you say, when we get married, to her, it's a when, not an if. And you're sitting there and she's failing her assessment. Okay? Make sure that you are communicating and controlling the pace of the relationship. Okay? Emotional security is another way that guys rise to the calling. If you are 3 months in and you're still like, we'll see, okay? She shouldn't feel like a ring is around the corner. She shouldn't feel that way. You should have been able to communicate transparently enough where you are. And conversely, okay, if you're 8 months in, 9 months in, 2 years in, 3 years, what's the appropriate timeline? I don't know, we'll talk about this later, okay? And you're out ring shopping, okay? She shouldn't be at home sitting on the fence of like, he's gonna break up with me, he's not gonna break up with me, he's gonna break up with me, he's not gonna break up with me. Because if you have done that, then you haven't provided that emotional security. You haven't communicated well enough. Okay? Have you ever seen this movie? So, this is just a sidebar. I know this is probably not a safe space because this is California and you guys have Disney and you're all Disney crazy or whatever. My kids don't usually watch Disney movies, like as like a general rule. Especially like, I talked about this with somebody earlier. Little Mermaid, that one really like, I don't love that one, okay? This like scantily clad girl has like one God-given talent and she like sells her soul and disobeys her father for a guy she's never spoken to, like, back to the algorithm, okay? You have to talk to him first, okay? Please. So, like, we don't love Disney movies, but my eldest daughter, like, Millie's like it's God's joke on me. She's like a sparkly unicorn, and I'm, like, really not that, okay? And so she's only ever watched 2 Disney movies in her life. Moana, no love story, see what I did there? And Mulan, be a man. No, just kidding. I don't want her to be a man. I don't want her to be a man. I don't want her to be a man. We don't have any gender confusion. We're good, okay? Okay. Spiritual examples of how a guy is able to rise to the calling with which he was called, okay? Protecting her purity and his own, okay? Can I just take a quick sidebar on this one? Because this one hurts me, okay? How many people in this room have had an old school Sunday school servant who gave you the purity example of 2 pieces of paper that get glued together? Anybody? You know that one? Yeah? 2 pieces of paper, they get glued together, okay? You let it dry, and then when you pull them apart, they rip apart! And they're never the same ever again, and you're perpetually ruined. Okay? And they say, that's your purity. Do you know Jesus even? Like, do you know him? He makes all things new. Like, have you met him? Okay? We have to walk away from this very rigid definition of purity. You know what purity is? Purity is being absorbed by God. Having your eyes on God. Having everything you do in your life point to God. That's purity. Okay? Purity is 100% focus on him. Wanting to be... I'm so sorry. What am I doing?
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Good. What's your name?
The mic died.
Very good. Oh, my mic died?
No, this
Sorry, guys. Sorry. Technological... BRB.
Callie? Callie,
Thank you. Sorry. Okay? I was getting on my soapbox about purity. I'm going to get right off it. Okay? But it hurts me when there's this, like, not like sound ideology that purity is like a one-time deal. Okay? Oh, you ruined it. That's it. You can never get it back. You can never be pure again. Okay? That's not fair. Okay? Purity, again, just like domestic, just like provide for, is not necessarily defined to an act, and it's more about who you are, where your focus is, where your heart is. Is your heart yoked to Him or is it not? Because if your heart is yoked to Him, your actions will then follow. If your eyes are on Christ, your actions will then follow to bring you closer to Christ, because that is the desire of your heart. Okay? It's not, these are the list of actions for the pure and these are the list of actions for the impure. Okay? Like sort of, because your actions will follow your heart, but it's not a one-time deal. Okay? So please, don't let people put those ideas in your head that you're like damaged goods, because that's not fair. And that's not who He is. That is not, and that's not what you know Him to be. Okay? That's not who He is. Okay? Anyways, sidebar. I'm sorry. So, protecting her purity and his own. Okay? What does this mean? What you talk about can drive you closer to Him or further away from Him. Okay? What you do and where you do it, okay, can drive you closer to Him or further away. Are you yoked together to the path of salvation? Okay? Or is your eye in a different direction? That's how a guy can rise to the calling. Either he's pursuing purity as a couple, which means absorption in Christ, okay? Or he's not. Are you creating good habits? Okay? Is it Ako Taco every time you want to talk about a sermon that you heard that morning? Because if it's Ako Taco, okay, where are his priorities? Okay? Is it weird? Is it awkward? Service, okay? Spiritual enrichment. Is that foreign to your relationship? Can't talk about it because it gets like dead silent. You hear crickets in the background? Or is this a normal part of what you guys talk about because this is what you prioritize? Okay? And does he pray through it? The ambiguity and the frustrations of relationships. I'll tell you a really funny story, sidebar, okay? So, a long time ago, like we had just started, like just been married, okay? And we were in a small groups with a bunch of people, okay? This is like 10 years ago or something, okay? And there was this one guy in the small groups, okay, you're gonna judge me and it's totally fine, okay? So at the end of the small groups, we'd like read the Bible, whatever is great, talk about it, very edifying, whatever. And then like we would take turns praying out loud, okay? And this guy, every single small groups for a year, okay? He's like, please God, help me navigate this. Life is so confusing and I don't know where we're going. And we're just like, who's he dating? He's dating somebody, okay? And then like, you know, like 6 months later, you're like, please God, speak through me. Give me words of wisdom to navigate conflicts. We're like, oh, they had a big fight last night. They had a big fight. Okay? And he's not saying anything because we're back in a day where like you don't tell people that you're dating and you just announce on Facebook with your like ring picture. Okay? But he's not saying anything. And then like 6 months later, he's like, please God, we pray for prosperity and financial security. And we're like, oh, he's buying a ring. He's buying a ring. Okay? We watch this guy's prayers so bad. Don't criticize anybody's prayers and don't critique them, please, okay? But we watch this guy go through the stage of his relationship, okay, in his prayers. As much as we roast him to the death for it right now, okay, it's a beautiful thing. Because he prayed through every single step. Everything that needed to be navigated, he brought it to the feet of Christ. It's a beautiful thing, as much as we roast him for it. Now, girls, okay? We are meant to empower. We are meant to inspire, okay? We are meant to show people the path to Christ, okay? That is who we are. How do we do this? Practically, what does that look like? Okay, we've beat this roles thing to death, okay? How do we do that practically, okay? Number one, communicate, okay? Please don't make him guess. Like we said in the beginning of the talk, don't turn him into a stalker, please, okay? This is also where the temperaments come into play, right? For your blues and your greens, communication is more of a struggle than for your reds and your yellows, okay? They're much more introverted. They internally process before they say anything, okay? Appreciate who you are and the level of difficulty, but that doesn't change the bar, okay? We talked about emotional safety, okay? I'm not going to beat that one to death, okay? Spiritual examples. Don't make it harder for him to prioritize the collective purity of the relationship, okay? Don't try and take his focus off of Christ. Girls, you know what you're doing, okay? You know what you're doing, okay? You try on that top, and it's not appropriate for church, but you're going to wear it on the date. You know what you're doing, okay? And don't get me wrong. People are flattered when they're able to elicit a response, okay? But don't make it harder for him to keep his eyes on Christ. And don't take your eyes off of Christ. Okay? Empower the good habits. Use your words to build up the strength and the purity of the relationship rather than make him question it. Okay? And like we said yesterday, even when he drops the ball, it takes strength to let him pick it back up. And if he doesn't, over and over and over again, it's an assessment. No problem. You have more insight into who he is and where his eyes are. But give him a chance. Okay? We talked about this already. Strength goes both ways. All right. That's all the first phase of the relationship. No pressure, right? Okay. The second phase of a relationship, again, timelines plus or minus. Okay? Usually people go through like a first like really big struggle. Okay? I'll tell you. You want me to tell you what mine was? It's really fun. No, it wasn't fun at all. Okay? Ours was like right actually around the 4-month mark. Like you can't script this stuff. Okay? So my husband is an identical twin. His brother got very sick. Okay? And you guys don't know my husband. One day, hopefully, God willing, you'll meet him when I bring the girls here. But him and his brother have like separation anxiety. Okay? So they're like identical twins, same profession. We've always lived like within a block of each other. We're like a very close-knit group. Like I have 3 kids, he has 3 kids, my brother-in-law, and they call each other like half siblings. They don't call each other cousins because technically they only differ in maternal DNA, whatever. It's a little creepy, but like we're a very like close-knit group. Okay? Close-knit group. Okay? So my husband, when his brother got really sick, like it became all consuming for him. Okay? Rightly so. And we had only been dating for like 3 months. Okay? And all of a sudden, I went from being a priority to being not a priority at all. Rightly so. Okay? It was a tough time. Okay? But it was a very good test of our ability to communicate. And it was the first time that we genuinely saw what the other person looked like in times of stress and in conflict, and when each side needs to be able to openly and transparently communicate their needs. Okay? So I went to school downtown Toronto, okay? And my husband was doing residency in Hamilton, which is like 2 hours away, okay? And so like I wasn't like maybe like a model student, like, you know, it's okay. I'm a grown-up now, and they can't take my transcripts back, okay? And so we would often, like, skip class and go visit our friends at another university, okay? So that day we had decided we're going to skip the whole day, and we're going to drive out to Hamilton to visit our friends who go to Mac, okay? And so my husband's doing residency on the same campus. So he's like, hey, don't take your car, okay? Hitch a ride with somebody, and then I will come, I'll pick you up, we'll go out, and then I'll drive you home. Okay, great. Sounds great. I'm dating for 4 months. He's a reliable guy, no problem. Okay? So I get to Hamilton and hanging out with the friends, whatever. He finishes around 5 o'clock, whatever. I'm expecting him to text me when it's done. 5 o'clock, no text. Bizarre. 6 o'clock, no text. Bizarre. 7 o'clock, my friends are getting in the car and they're leaving. They're like, you sure you're okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. No, don't worry. Mommy's coming. Mommy's coming. Don't worry. We're good. We're good. Bizarre. 8 o'clock. What's happening? So then I call him. I'm like, hey, where are you? He's like, oh, I'm sorry. Tamer felt like, you know, he was a little bit down, so I just went home. Bro, I'm stranded in Hamilton. What do you, I have no car. My parents don't know I'm here. Sorry. Okay? I'm stressed. Don't come to the parents' talk tomorrow. I'm stressed. Okay? First, really big conflict. Because in my mind, you just abandoned me. Okay? In his mind, Tamer needed me. And you're self-sufficient, and he's going through something. Both sides, very reasonable, okay? But the point of having these conflicts and these differences of opinion, and we're going to talk about conflict resolution tomorrow, okay, is that there is no threshold for too much fighting, okay? It's not like, oh, if you have in excess of 7 fights a week, you guys better break up because that's too much, okay? The litmus test for fighting is whether you're able to fight productively, okay? Whether after you have a conflict or a disagreement, you understand each other better, or it's awkward and it's tense. There's more insight, or there's more confusion. Okay? You're on stronger foundations, or you're even shakier than you were before. So I actually don't care how many times a week you fight. I don't care. What I care is about what happens after the fight. Okay? And tomorrow in the conflict resolution talk, we're gonna like dive deep into this and some of the literature and all that stuff. Okay? Okay, I'm going to blow through these last few slides, okay? So this is like 4 to 7 months. A lot of couples have like a really big like conflict, and then they learn from that, and then they go through like a period of stability, okay? Very nice, self-explanatory, Kermit the Frog, okay? Then we get to like the end chunk of the dating stage, okay, whatever timeline that is, I don't know what it is, whatever it is, okay? And there is usually a second very big struggle that's a make or break. And at this point, you know enough about each other in terms of like how they handle stress, how they handle conflict, whatever. And usually this struggle is a make or break. Either you decide to part ways, it ain't happening, okay? My husband and I actually broke up for like 7 hours, okay? At this point, it's a big drama, okay? 7 hours, okay? And then it's usually followed by a period of like stability and reflection that leads to a decision point, okay? Either it's been a sufficient length of time, okay? And this person is what I think they are. This person's eyes are on Christ. This is the person that's going to walk the path to salvation with me, and out to the ring store you go, okay? Or this person is crazy. I need to figure out a way to get out, okay? And you're out the door. Or I'm not sure, okay? And for the guys, I really want you to know that this I'm not sure, after the appropriate length of time, whatever it is, like a year plus or whatever, okay? You need to probe that very carefully, because some guys, in their avoidance of having a difficult conversation, will call it I'm not sure. But if you dig deep enough, you are sure, and you are sure that this is the wrong girl, the wrong place, or the wrong time, and you want to get out, okay? But you're just scared of doing it, or you don't want to bring yourself to that conversation, or you have like, you know, this whole like, well, what if I break up with her and then I don't get a better option later? Should I just settle now? Okay? So I want you to probe, guys, that I'm not sure response very, very carefully, and make sure that I don't know is a band-aid and prolonging something deeper that you actually do know. Okay? I just put this example here. So a few years after we got married, I was like, you know, feeling like lovey-dovey and feelings that I needed some like words of affirmation, whatever. So I was asking my husband, Rami, like, what made you like sure that you wanted to marry me? You know, like, what was the point at which you're like, you know what? Yes, I'm gonna marry her. Like, what was it? And I'm expecting some like big romantic story of like, oh, you walked in the room and like I just saw you and I just knew, or like whatever. Okay, we're already married at that point. You can't take it back. Okay. He says to me, I got less and less anxious about the idea of marrying you. Well, catch me. I'm gonna swoon from the romance. Okay. Like, yes, not very romantic, okay, but approximates the thought process that should be happening as you're kind of approaching that, like, whatever requisite time it is for you guys to make a decision, okay? So, last few things, a few guardrails that we want to talk about, okay? In your relationship, your litmus test, okay, is the spiritual void. Is Christ the anchor and the ultimate goal, or is he an afterthought that you're trying to force into the relationship, okay? The physical boundaries, are they clouding your judgment or giving you insight? Okay? Are they a source of a covenant that you've both been able to commit to that approximates the covenant of marriage? Okay? Or is it a source of conflict and confusion? Do you have the same expectations of timelines? And are you both moving forward at a similar pace? Or is she like planning her exit as you're buying a ring? Okay? So just a few suggestions that you might want to read. Okay? I'm a big temperaments fan, if you don't know. Huge. This is the OG book about the temperaments. I said this, you heard that. Okay? I love this book on the side, 101 Questions to Ask Before You Get Engaged, because sometimes it probes the conversations that are a reflection of like your morals and your ideas that a circumstance may not bring to the surface, right? So sometimes it's fun to like have these dates where you play these games and you go question for question. And then of course the 5 love languages, which you guys already know. Okay. Questions. I'm expecting some fighting. I'm ready. Okay? Oh, yes. Okay, so for Slido, when you text in questions, if you like questions that other people have asked, the more likes, the higher to the top it goes. So it orders the questions in like descending order of popularity. Okay? Okay, we're friends. I ask her out. She says no. How do you get over her and move on? Do we still stay friends? Okay? So, I ask her out and she says no. How do you get over her and move on? So I just want to be very clear, okay? Get over her and move on. You're not in love, right? Because you didn't wait a year and a half to ask her out, right? Okay? Because if you did wait a year and a half, and in that year and a half, you told yourself this narrative that you're in love with her and she's amazing, but she didn't know because you just lived in her DMs, like, we gotta have a different kind of conversation, okay? So I hope that by this point, it's not like getting over her because you've loafed it a little bit too long, but how do you get over her and move on? We're going to talk about this tomorrow. Baggage, breaks up, moving on, how to cope, how to deal, how to move forward. We'll get to it tomorrow. Do we still stay friends? Okay. Were you in a relationship? If you were in a relationship, you can't stay friends. Okay? If you are at the point where you need to get over her, which means you're super, super emotionally invested, I would say no, especially not for the time being. Okay? Unpopular opinion. Sorry, not sorry. I'm from Canada, so it doesn't matter what you guys think. Okay? But if there is somebody that is emotionally invested, you cannot stay friends. Because it, like, unlevels the playing field. And you're sitting there, you're agonizing over her, and every bone she throws you, you take that as like, oh, change of heart. Oh, I'm reading the signals. Oh, I'm reading the sign. Let me try again. And she's just kind of like talking to the 3 other guys on the side. Okay? So I'm gonna offer a suggestion that the answer is no until you strive for indifference. Okay? When you get to the point where you can walk into a crowded room and you're not hyper aware of her every position in the room, and she's gone from here to here, 45-degree angle, and hyper aware of like her milestones in her life, maybe we can talk about being friends. Okay? But until you get to that point, I'm gonna offer that the answer is no. Okay? Yes, friend. Then she's crazy. We don't need to play games. Okay? We talked about this. Okay? What? He said, what if she's saying no because she wants you to fight for her? She's crazy. That's it. Okay? You don't want somebody that's playing these arbitrary games. Okay? You want somebody who's invested in walking the path to salvation, which is denying her selfish desires. You want somebody who sees you with the eyes of Christ, who gives you grace and not like trials and tribulations and tests. You're going to get enough of that on your own. She doesn't need to offer new ones. Okay? If that's what she's doing, out. You cut the friendship, cut it all. Okay? Okay. How did I get home from Hamilton? I had to like beg a ride from people that were late studying who actually lived in Hamilton, who good Samaritans drove me home. And for those who don't know, I am a red. Okay? I do not like to ask for help as a general rule. Okay? And so I'm literally sitting there Google mapping like, what if I walk? And like, okay, what if I take public transportation? You guys don't know, Hamilton is super sketchy, okay? It's like a university town. You step off the campus and like, wow, like grab your bags, grab your necklaces, like you're gonna get mauled, okay? So anyways, found a good Samaritan who was from the church who offered to take me home. I didn't quite explain why, but I was even more upset because I had to ask for help when I really don't like to do that, okay? Wouldn't you say it's better to have the deal breaker conversation before you DTR to avoid a breakup when you're only 2 or 3 months in? Yeah, sure. For me, the deal breaker conversation is like, okay, 5 dates, DTR, deal breaker conversation, right? But if you want to have it during the casual dating period, I think that's great. Because you're trying to figure out if there's enough here that you want to continue, right? Not that you're going to marry, but is there enough here that you want to continue? So yeah, absolutely. Okay? I knew this question was coming. I knew it, and it always comes. Okay. Can you go into more detail regarding physical boundaries? For example, hugging, holding hands, kissing. What is appropriate in various stages, dating versus engagement? Over to you, Marchi. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. So I'll tell you. Okay. I'll tell you what happened with us. Okay. Tell you what happened with us. My sister's in the room. Block your ears, friend. Okay. It's a little awkward. I never had this conversation in front of family members. No problem. Okay. So when we had our deal breakers, physical boundaries conversation or whatever, like I am a red, okay? And I think I know better than everybody else because most of the time I do, okay? Sorry. It's just how I am, right? Explains, not justifies. So he said, like, okay, I think, X, Y, and Z is appropriate. And I'm just like, what do you know? Like, and usually my first reaction to anybody is like, what do you know? Okay? Like 2 or 3 weeks ago, somebody who's just getting into a serious relationship asked me like, oh, Sarah, like, do you have any book recommendations about, like, relationships and dating, whatever? And I was like, I mean, like, I can give you a few suggestions, but, like, what do they know? Like, that's usually my, like, first reaction to everything. So I took it to my father confession. Because, not that my father confession is going to know more than Rami, but, like, I just needed to, like, validate. You know what I mean? Like, I need some additional data to, like, come up with such an important conversation. So I went to my father confession, who was from an uber-Orthodox conservative church, okay? And asked him, like, okay, just spell it out, okay? And mind you, this is at a time where, like, you don't talk about that, okay? You don't talk about people in, like, of the opposite gender having conversations one-on-one, okay? When we were growing up in my church, just a sidebar, okay, we had something called the doubles rule. Anybody know what that is? Okay, so if you're in church and you're talking in a group, you cannot have even-numbered guys to girls ratio. You can't have 2 guys and 2 girls talking to each other. Because if you do, somebody's mom is going to walk down the corridor and someone's going to take a beat down in the middle of church, okay? It's always got to be offset, like 3 and 2, okay? Like, you know what I mean? They can't be even numbers. That was the church that I grew up in, okay? So, I'm sitting there asking my abuna, okay, how far can I go with this guy? Just imagine. And my abuna who barely speaks English, okay? So just imagine me trying to, like, communicate this in Arabic. Like, oh, abuna, like, is, like, what's okay? Like, boss, like, I'm like, charades. It was a mess, okay? It was a mess. It's fine. We got it. It was a mess, okay? I'll tell you what he told me, okay? I'll tell you what he told me transparently, and you can fight me, you can disagree, we can hash it out, we can talk about it. I'll tell you what he told me, and I make no apologies for it. And I was raised very strongly with, like, core tenet of the church I was raised in is, like, obedience is, like, a big deal, okay? So he said the hard boundaries are kiss on the forehead, kiss on the forehead, kiss on the cheek, like, whatever, hand holding, that's it. Hugs, obviously, okay? That's it. No makeout sessions, like, keep your clothes on, folks, like, no hands wandering down paths that are uncharted territory, like, none of that business, okay? And he was point blank. And this just so happens to be the physical boundary threshold that my husband also felt. And I don't want to out Rami here. Should I out him? I'll just out him, okay? I'm looking at the people who know him. Don't tell him I told this story, okay? He's not watching the recordings because there's no recordings. I ignore that, okay? The reason that we agreed that this is the appropriate boundary is because we had been either in or witnesses of, okay, relationships that did not adhere to those boundaries, okay? And we learned, baptism by fire, why those boundaries are what they are. Okay? And while on the surface level, okay, it may have appeared that this is crazy and uber conservative and whatever, we had experienced or watched, I refuse to define which is which, okay? Experienced or watched what happened when the threshold was lower rather than higher. And we saw enough potential in this that we didn't want to ruin the potential of this relationship by taking the risk. Maybe that's too conservative. Maybe, okay? But nobody ever regretted being too conservative. But a lot of people regretted not being conservative enough. Okay? And a lot of people carry a lot of baggage about that. So we thought, let's just play it safe. So was our first kiss on our wedding? Yes, it was. Do all the little high school girls romanticize that? Oh my God, Sarah, it's so cute. Yeah, they love it. They eat it right up. Okay? But that's what our Abuna told us. Now, I recommend you to please go and promptly have the discussion in vivid detail with Marchie. He's really excited to talk about this with all of you. Please give him all the gory details, like you name every body part you need to, okay? Please. Thank you, okay? Ooh, you're diving into my personal baggage. When is the right time to tell your parents about the person that you're dating? Hi, back there. What's up? Okay. Okay. Over to you, Marchie. Okay. So I'm leaving on Tuesday. And you can very much disagree with me, okay? Please disagree with me openly, okay? Okay. So in this, like, trip that I'm here at, okay, Marchie, like, loves to see me squirm, I guess, and has asked me to do a parents' talk. Okay? And the parents' talk is going to be, I'm going to take bullets, okay? A bulletproof vest, if anybody has one that I can borrow, because you guys live in the land of LAPD SWAT, okay? Please, I'm looking, okay, desperately for tomorrow, okay? Part of the goals of the parent talk tomorrow is, like, level setting also, okay? Not just about, like, the cultural differences, but also about what are we striving for, okay? Like, what do you want for your kids? What's the ultimate goal? Let's define the ultimate goal, and then let's work backwards. to figure out how we're going to get there. And we're going to draw some parallels, okay, about the differences in the cultural expectations from like how they might have been raised versus how we were raised, okay? Like for those that were here yesterday, my dad never referred to my husband when we were dating as boyfriend. He was called pre-engagement. What friend? No, you got to assume the win, folks, okay? Pre-engagement. That's what my husband was called. That word, boyfriend or girlfriend, was a swear word in my house growing up, okay? My parents also had a different perspective of timelines, okay? My parents got engaged to date. They didn't know each other before they got engaged. Like there's this whole like talbis dibal situation, you got a ring, you got a necklace too apparently, or like whatever, okay? And that's what made it okay for them to go out, okay? We live in a different time. And tomorrow, I'm going to take bullets, okay, about talking about how we live in a different time, but we live in a different time, and it's not the same. And that was right and appropriate for them back then, and that was what was culturally appropriate for them back then, and protecting Somaritic and your reputation, because that's the way society functioned back then. That is not where we live today, okay? It is not. My parents, you think my 1 year timeline is crazy, okay? You know what my parents' timeline was for pre-engagement? Okay, because I refused to put a ring on so I can go out with him. Okay, 4 months. Yeah, 4 months. They wanted me to start dating somebody to a maximum threshold of 4 months, after which we have to be engaged or it's over. So, I transparently had this conversation with my father confession, who knows my parents very well. He knows them very well. Like, I was born and raised in that church. Okay? And he said to me, now I'm throwing him under the bus, okay? He said to me, let's just offset it a little bit, okay? I want you to tell your parents. I want you to be transparent with your parents, okay? I want you to. But I don't want them to unnecessarily end this relationship because of something that is no longer culturally appropriate. So let's just offset it until you are in a more stable period that this is actually what you want. Because my parents also had that mentality of you can't date multiple people. The first person you date has to be the person that you marry. Has to be. Okay? Like the first person that you date, because if you date multiple people, so I think nobody's going to want to marry you after that. And they genuinely believe that. They genuinely believe that. And so he said, if you figure out that this guy is not what you want, and now you've told them, okay, now you've over-invested before you're at the point where you're invested. So my answer to this question is it depends. It depends on your relationship with your parents, okay? Where are you? Are you guys on the same playing field, or are you not? Are your parents, like, on the same page as you about dating and how this is supposed to go, or are they not? And I'm going to argue, okay, and this is like on me, if they are vastly different from where you are, have you had a conversation about it? Have you talked about it? What are your expectations? What are their expectations? Have you talked about it? Because maybe this is a good conversation opener. Maybe this is a good way, before you get into a relationship, to figure out, like, what are your expectations, because no matter who you are, no matter what baggage you hold about your families, it is important that the person that you're with eventually and ultimately be accepted by your family. And we'd be lying to ourselves if we said that doesn't matter to us. It does matter. And so it's as much a service to you and your relationship with your parents as it is to the person that you're dating, to make sure that you set yourselves up for success. So maybe it's a good conversation opener to have that conversation with them now if you don't know where they stand, and maybe they'll surprise you, maybe they won't, okay? And if you vastly differ, to talk about why, okay? I also come from an environment where you don't talk back, and that term talking back kind of like applied to like asking questions as talking back. Also with that said, like in all fairness, like I'm a red, so like my delivery was probably really bad, right? My sister's like, yeah, just stop giving yourself too much credit. You're like a big snake, okay, whatever, okay? But it's worth the effort. It's worth the try. It's not gonna be easy, okay? But you can do hard things. So my answer to this question is it depends on who you are and how aligned you are and where your parents are at in the spectrum of this whole dating, because this is going to be novel for a lot of people, okay? This was super, super uncomfortable for my parents. And I just want to say, I paved the way for my sister's relationship. I took the bullets, moving on, nobody's carrying baggage, okay? But it's a worthwhile conversation, okay? Where can I find the recorded video so I can see what I missed? I have no idea. That's a Marty question. I try to pretend like this is not being recorded. I'm very bad at texting. I've let so many conversations die over text because I just don't know what to say over the phone. What do I do? Call her and try. Or call him and try. You know why you're bad at it? Because you don't do it. Okay? Just do it, be bad at it, do it again, and then you're less bad at it. Okay? You can't just avoid it because you're bad at it. Okay? And I just want to say, you can't live a marriage over text. Okay? So if this person is going to be yoked to you eventually on the path to salvation, you're going to have to figure out how to talk over the phone or in person. Okay? No time like the present. So don't, give yourself an excuse for why you're not going to do something that might be out of your comfort zone. At what point should you talk to your father confession when you start liking somebody? Confession for me is life-saving. Okay? My whole life, confession has been, there's two things that have been an anchor for me my whole life. Service, confession. Okay? Both of them started at an astronomically young age. Okay? But those two things are my anchors. Okay? So for me, with my father confession, I am full disclosure right from the get-go. Okay? There's very little about me that he doesn't know. Good, bad, ugly, questionable opinions. We talk about it all. So I'm going to say also, depends on your relationship with your father of confession. If you have an edifying relationship with your father of confession, there's no such thing as too soon. If you don't have an edifying relationship with your father of confession, do you need a new one? Maybe. When dating, is it possible to be too communicative of your needs and expectations after texting for months? Are you dating if you're only texting? Guys, we talked about this. Okay, please. If you're dating, then it can't just be texting. Okay, please. Is it possible to be too communicative of your needs and expectations? So, I'm just going to give a disclaimer to this one. Okay, is it possible to be too communicative? Probably not if I understand what you're saying. Is it possible to be too critical? Yes. So I'll tell you what I mean by that, okay? Too communicative is you had this situation, it didn't sit well with you, so you communicate the why and why you feel that way, and let's talk about it, and what are we going to do going forward, and great, productive, love it, excellent, okay? Too dismissive is, we went on a date, you spent all this time planning, but in the last 3 minutes of the date, you didn't do exactly what I expected you to do, and you're not a leader. Too dismissive, okay? And sometimes people use too communicative as a synonym for too dismissive, okay? So you have to make sure that you're talking about the right thing, that you're not giving yourself an excuse to be a big snake by saying, oh, I'm communicating, okay? Make sure that your communicating follows the design, okay? Strength, honor, wisdom, discernment. Okay, last one. Huh? Pick a good one. A juicy one. The last one. I like the last two, actually. I have to pick one. Murray's shooting daggers over here. Okay. My partner has everything except one thing: height. We are the same height. Is this a deal breaker? Or should I just be grateful? What? I don't know what the rest of it says. Huh? Oh, like this? Whoa. I thought we were done. Okay. She just cut me off, guys. Where's the height one? What's the last one? It's the latest one? Down. Oh, if I'm ugly, how can I get a girlfriend? Wow. This one, someone screenshot this one. If I'm ugly, how can I get a girlfriend? Screenshot it. Where's the height one? Oh, okay. Should I just be grateful and pursue this? Okay. Listen, okay? If you ask me on a superficial level, is height a deal breaker or a preference? It's a preference, okay? Easy for me to say. My husband is 6'3". He's a gorilla, okay? He is. And there's two of him, both married. Sorry, girls, okay? In like my heart of hearts, that is a preference, okay? Because that is not at all related to his ability or his desire to walk the path of salvation. It is not, okay? In my heart of hearts, that is not at all related to whether he can or cannot rise to the design that he was called to be. To me, that is a preference, not a deal breaker. However, okay, remember what I said yesterday? Deal breakers are traditionally based on morals, values, ethical convictions, whatever they are, okay? Maybe you are not there yet, okay? And maybe this is a preference for 99.9% of the population, but you belong to that like 0.01% of the population where you can't live with this. His height consumes you, okay? And you refuse to throw out your heels and be condemned to a life of flats, okay? For the rest of your life. Maybe. I'm not saying that that's right or wrong. I am saying that that's crazy, but that's fine, okay? If you can't live with it, it doesn't matter what other people think about your deal breaker, because you can't live with it. But you just better make sure that you actually can't live with it and you're not just being crazy. Okay? The other thing I'm going to say is that where is your focus? Okay? Is your focus on Christ and walking the path of salvation? Okay? And there's no minimum height restriction to get into heaven. Okay? It's not like Wonderland where you have to be a certain height to get on the ride. Okay? Or is your focus somewhere else? Okay? This is some self-probing. But superficial answer, height is typically a preference. Deeper answer is typically a preference, but I can't dictate what you can or can't live with. Okay? Okay, that was the last one. There was another one, a promise ring one, but I can't find it. Nobody wants to live here, folks. You don't have free health care. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, there was a promise ring one. Promise rings are awkward. How do I... Berry talk? I just want to do the promise ring one, because promise rings are kind of awkward. Where? Do Egyptian women care if Egyptian men are balding? Please, someone take a screenshot, please. Please. I just want to say, just so you know, my husband is balding, okay? I just want to say, balding is actually an anatomical representation of higher levels of testosterone. Just throwing it out there. But my husband is not shiny bald like Marchie. He's like buzz. Fine. Okay. Just throwing it out there. Okay. Last one, and then I'm done. Cut me off, okay? Please, it's really hot in here, okay? Also, promise rings are weird, so how can I express that I'm committed without proposing before I'm ready for that? Your boy doesn't make money yet. Habibi, you don't work at McDonald's? You don't work at In-N-Out? Just kidding. Okay. So, I also agree that promise rings are like a little bit like situation specific. I don't think promise rings are like a blanket statement, every milestone, every couple. Like I think it's a little like, you know, and sometimes with promise rings we worry that like with a promise ring the guy's not controlling the pace of the relationship because he's saying I'm committing before I'm ready to commit, right? So like what are you actually saying? Nothing, okay? So I agree about the promise ring thing, okay? There are so many ways to show that you are committed without buying a promise ring. Emotional security, okay? Purity, spirituality, open and honest communication, okay? And walking the path together. That's how you show it, okay? You don't need a ring. You don't need a physical manifestation of the way you make somebody feel. If she needs a ring because you're not making her feel that way, okay, then maybe you have to question what you think you're doing that you're not, right? Like, I'll give you an analogy, okay? When I was younger, okay, I'm giving you all the skeletons in my closet, all the flaws about me, come as you are, right? That's what they say about the church, okay? When I was younger, there was a fad, okay? Like, end of high school, like late university, early university, okay? There was a fad. We grew up in an uber conservative church, okay? And tattoos became a fad, okay? But the only way we could do it socially acceptably is if we did the wrist cross, right? Right? That's the only way we could do it. That's the only universe where our parents would not absolutely murder us for getting a tattoo. So all of a sudden, okay, when we were younger, because it was cool, everybody was going to get one of these, okay? I've never been to Egypt. This is not from Egypt, okay? This is from like Green Tongue Tattoo Parlor or something like around the corner, okay? The guy giving it to me, like, I really don't know if he knew Christ or not. Like, I have no idea, okay? Like, some questionable tattoos on him that made me question. We don't know, okay? And then when you go home and you justify it to your parents, it's a reminder of Christ. It's a reminder of my focus. No, this is over spiritual. Okay? Habibi, if you need a physical reminder to remember who Christ is, your life could use a little bit of adjustment, folks. Okay? If your relationship needs a physical reminder before you're ready to get married, maybe the focus should be less on what they sell in the mall and more on what you're saying, what you're doing, and how you're making each other feel. Okay? So I'm going to stand behind my, question the whole promise ring thing.